Hello everyone and welcome to SkShadow. Welcome back to another episode of our F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, and this time we are going to the Brazilian Grand Prix. So as you can see, we've got a lot of days to do activities, so I just pressed the autofill and it puts all of them in because we have enough time to do all the activities. We also have a little bit of resource points to spend, so I go for one of the major upgrades in the chassis department, and that will come to us before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So we'll have some upgrades going into there, which will be very nice. And we also have a little bit of money, so I also upgrade the fitness centre of the personnel, which will improve the racecraft and awareness stats of my teammate. So hopefully that means he'll be a little bit faster going into the next Grand Prix. And in the chassis department, I upgrade the resource point generation. So that will move it from 20 to giving us 60 resource points a week, so that'll help us with a bit of development later on. Weather forecast, we are dry in the qualifying and the race, which is always fantastic. None of that nonsense we had in the USA. And performance wise, we are below Hassan Alfa Romeo, but you can see just how close it is, so we should definitely be fighting with them this race, and Williams are still completely off the mark, so they are nowhere near us, so we won't have to worry about them. Going into the race, we are 7th in the drivers and 6th in the constructors, but it is very, very close in the constructors. So we'll have to aim to try and keep there, but it does mean we'll have to get some points, which is going to be quite difficult. But nonetheless, we will go straight to qualifying. So, as you can see, I did notice that one of our power unit components, the energy store, was quite worn, so I have applied for a new one of those, but that is going to take 9 minutes out of our time in Q1, but that should still give us time to go for 2 runs, because we've still got 8 minutes and 40 left, so we're going for our first run here at the wonderful Circuit of Brazil. It's definitely one of my favourites, alongside Canada and Spa, of course. Who doesn't love Spa? But anyway, the idea here would definitely be to finish ahead of Williams. That's a given. But also ahead of the Hassan Alfa Romeo if we can. So if we do that, that will put us into Q2. So that would be fantastic. If our teammate can get into Q2, even better. But from what the history says, it looks like that's probably not going to happen, as we cross the line with a 108.530, which is only enough to put us P20 for now. And our teammate did a 108.327, so we've definitely got time to make up. There's no doubt about that. We're much faster in the third sector, but much slower in the second. So pretty much it's the first and second sector we're going to have to try and make up time. But skipping to the end of our next lap, we are almost 4 tenths up crossing the line, which puts us, I think that's at P14. So, yeah, P14. So pretty ideal there, with 108.129, so actually ahead of the Alpha Tauri as well, ahead of our teammate who just missed out on Q2. It's really disappointing. Would have been nice to have him into Q2, you know, both cars into Q2 for the first time. But my first run in Q2, I did a 108.242, which I thought was probably the best I'm going to do anyway. The guys ahead are just going to improve, and it was very, very difficult to get that speed out of the first Q1 session. So yeah, overall that puts us P15, so pretty good. I'd say that's very good, especially as it's nearing the end, so I imagine there's going to be a lot of engine penalties for the other guys. So looking good for the race.
Welcome along then to the place where heroes and history are made. It's where the 2008 title was decided in the final corner. And it's the place, a year later, that Jenson Button stormed through from 14th on the grid to claim his one and only Drivers' Championship. It's Interlagos, and it's time for the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Gasly, Lando Norris, and Hamilton, Perez, Verstappen. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Grosjean and Carlos Sainz. The engineer, Ricciardo, Kevin Magnussen, and Stroll, Giovinazzi, Ocon, Kimi Raikkonen, and Nicholas Latifi. Kvyat, Ireland, Russell, and Alexander Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Okay, we have a good chance of matching our results from the last race. Let's make sure we get the result we deserve.
So Jeff reckons that we could potentially go for points this race, which I think is possible. We are starting P11 because, as expected, a load of the other guys got engine penalties. So yeah, we got bumped up to P11. Pit stop looks like we're going to be doing a soft to hard strategy, coming in on lap 14. Could go for the medium option, but I wanted the faster tyre from the start. But we will now go to the race start. And it's lights out and away we go. Looks like Bottas up ahead gets a pretty decent start. Doesn't look like anyone bogs down too much. You can see that is us on the left there, just touching the grass, going around the outside of that McLaren by the looks of it. Now we're behind a Racing Point and a Red Bull of Verstappen, that is. And you can see we are going to go for a massive dive bomb down the inside, and he gets squeezed a little bit and they seemingly fly off to the other side of the track. Verstappen is out of the session. So this is from the Racing Point's perspective, and you see he gets squeezed a bit, and yeah, that happens. So yeah, there's a virtual safety car. In my opinion, that's just a racing incident. That's a first lap incident, you know. I mean, we didn't get a penalty or anything like that, so overall fine for us. It does mean we have one less Red Bull to contend with, and I had a look, we didn't get any damage or anything, so overall doesn't really make much difference to us. It does mean we are now in P8. Ahead of us is Perez and Hamilton in the Racing Point and, well, in the pink Mercedes and the normal Mercedes. So we're going to be having to fight them, although probably won't be able to, as Sainz goes for a massive dive bomb down the inside there, but seemingly outbroke himself a little bit and ends up all the way back behind Ricciardo. So yeah, he definitely outbroke himself. We are currently within DRS zone of Prez, but they are a much faster car up there, so the chances of us being anywhere near their pace is pretty damn low. This time we still have a Renault behind us, as in most races, but it is actually Ricciardo instead of Ocon. So yeah, he's going to be a lot quicker this time, and also in the performance chart you could see the Renaults, and especially McLarens, are a lot quicker than us now, rather than nearer the start of the season. The Renaults were sort of nearer to us on pace than they are, but it's not going to be long until Ricciardo is trying to go for a move. As you can see on lap 5, he's already 3 tenths behind us. We're having to use all the overtake possible to stay ahead, and Sainz is still sticking with us as well, but Perez and Hamilton are now way ahead. Perez is about 1.5 seconds there, so yeah, definitely pulling away from us, which means going into the next DRS zone, we're basically going to be a sitting duck, because Ricciardo's going to have all the DRS, along with Sainz as well, and yeah, we're just going to be sat there trying to use our overtake, but our engine just isn't good enough. Seemingly the Mercedes engine throughout the season has dropped off a bit, and little oversteers like that certainly aren't going to help our cause. As we go around the last corner there, try to find all the traction we can to plant the power down early, using all the overtake as we cross the DRS line, and yeah, Ricciardo and Sainz both get past us, one on the outside, one on the inside, and they make the move look pretty easy, which puts it back to how it normally is, with Ocon behind us, now 1.5 seconds behind us, and Stroll actually behind him, 2.5 seconds. So Stroll keeping up, which is quite nice. We do get a little bit of DRS just for being behind signs going into there, but it's not going to be long until they start pulling away like the Racing Point and Mercedes did. So now, well, going deep like that is certainly going to help them pull ahead. But now the game is to stay ahead of Ocon, who you can see is already creeping up within DRS of us. So pretty much a game of defence, as it typically is with the car we've got at the moment. And you see skipping ahead to lap 7, Ocon is already within DRS zone here. And we're using all the overtake, although we turn the overtake off there, using rich overtake, but it's just not enough. It's just not enough to keep the Renaults behind us anymore. It may have been a few races ago, but it seems like the Renault engine has just suddenly got amazing. And yeah, that's a little hint of what could be happening to the car going into next season, bearing in mind we currently have the Mercedes engine. But that means that ahead of us we've got Ocon that we might be able to stick with for a few laps. He is generally the slower Renault out of him and Ricciardo. And behind us still Stroll. We are actually pulling ahead of him about 3 seconds, about 4 seconds now. But you can see that behind Stroll is Albon, because Albon was very out of position this race because of grid penalties. So you can see he's about 4.4 behind us, with Stroll about 4 seconds. So he's about 4 tenths off Stroll. So going into the next DRS zone, i.e. this one, he's going to be overtaking him quite easily. As you can hear, Jeff is telling us we are approaching our pit window, which means we will be pitting in 2 laps time, lap 14, and swapping out these rather old softs by now for some brand new hards, which should hopefully give us a little bit of pace and last us to the end of the race. A bit of rhyme there. And yeah, you can see Albon definitely got ahead of Stroll onto lap 14, or in lap. See, Albon is very, very close behind us, but thankfully we don't have to lose any time trying to fight him because we just dive into the pits. However, you will notice Albon has also gone into the pits. So depending on how quick we can do these pit stops, it's going to be a big old fight between us and Albon when we come out. As you can see just how close he is there, and he does actually tap us a little bit, and you can see it sends him spinning a little bit, but he's able to keep hold of it. Not so much the tragedy that he had in Brazil 2019, getting turned by Hamilton there, as we go very, very deep there for some reason, and we come across the track and just give him the big squeeze. Here we make a little bit of contact. We'll show you now why we went like that, because he goes for a huge dive bomb and actually hits our rear tyre, which means we're not able to turn in like we should, which is why I was perhaps a little bit aggressive pushing him across the track, because, you know, I was just giving him back what he gave to us. But it is a bit mad that we were able to keep Albon behind for this long when we just weren't with the McLarens and the Renaults. But I think that is also partly due to the engine, because obviously Albon is running a Honda engine, which is still pretty slow at the end of this season. Using our overtake, we're able to be a lot faster than him, whereas all the cars using the Renault engine, i.e. the Renault and the McLaren, seem to be pretty quick in a straight line at the moment. As we go very deep there, go for an early apex. Going for an early apex actually means we go off the track a bit, but we're going for early apexes because we know that Albon seems to have a tendency to just absolutely dive down the inside of us in that corner as he tries again to do it. So yeah, very, very aggressive from Albon. I mean, I can see why. We are a car that he should easily be getting past, but seemingly in the engine zones, we seem to be a bit quicker than him, as he's still very, very close behind us. Behind him is Stroll, 2.2 seconds, which does show that we are actually losing time fighting with Albon, but I didn't really care. At the end of the day, we're nowhere near points, so might as well fight for the position that we're in. And you see Ocon is now almost 10 seconds ahead, so he's proper pulling ahead now. So our chances of points are pretty damn slim unless something drastic goes on. As Albon goes round our outside there, but we do manage to outbrake him, and he's still side by side. Almost going off the track there, but we outbrake him, try and make our car as wide as possible. And yeah, we're still ahead. You hear Jeff telling us we've got well, Raikkonen has an issue with his car, and he's going to be slow. Doesn't really make too much of a difference for us because he's already behind us. So we're not going to gain any positions there. Like I said, we're in P12. We'd need 2 of the guys ahead to either crash out or have engine failures to even have a look into the points. But here we are, still fighting with Albon. However, I decide that right now it's about time that I let him by, because I'm just losing too much time, and you see Stroll's already within DRS behind us, so I didn't bother using any overtake or anything like that. We do manage to get the DRS on him, as we actually set a purple Sector 3. So showing you that with the DRS, we've still got a reasonably quick car. So yeah, quite nice setting purple sectors. But behind us is Stroll. He's just out of the DRS zone now, but he has got a Magnussen to be dealing with behind him. However, he seems to have had the Magnussen behind him the whole race, so he hasn't had any issues trying to fight him by the looks of it. Moving on to lap 27, you see our turbocharger and MGUH are 60%. So that is part of the reason why in a straight line we haven't been the quickest, because both our energy creating system and also our just general turbocharger are quite worn, which means power output is going to be a lot lower than optimal. You see Stroll is still within this DRS zone, which is actually good for him, because all the while he's within the DRS zone of us, it's allowing him to stay ahead of Magnussen. And it's clearly not enough for him to overtake us. As you see, we're moving on to the last lap now. Stroll's still behind us. Albon's now 7.8 seconds ahead, so he's pulled ahead hugely in the small time he's been ahead of us. You see, it's probably a good thing that the race is ending at this point, because it looks like if it was any longer, it would probably start to rain. You see the clouds are very, very dark up there. And you see Bottas sets the fastest lap and also wins the race. And you see behind Stroll, a Grosjean appears in the racing point. So he was the one that had the tangle with us and Verstappen at the end, at the beginning of the race. But we do cross the line.
That's the end of the race.
To finish P12. And for some reason, Albon got driver of the day, which is a bit crazy considering the very aggressive fighting he was doing with us. But as you can see, in this race, Hamilton has managed to clinch the Drivers' Championship, as expected, to be honest. And we finished P12 with our teammate alongside us in P13, so a very nice showing from him, showing that these upgrades for the personnel department are certainly working. We're pretty close on pace, actually. Our best was a 110.87 and his was a 110.9. You can see with Albon, his best was a 110.0. So you can see that his pace was definitely better than ours. It's just we were seemingly able to defend. And I think I could probably have defended against him to the end of the race if I wanted to. I just didn't want to lose that much time. But we're still P7 in the driver standings with 72 points. But we have dropped to P7 in the constructors now. Because Gasly got a decent points finish. So 64 points for McLaren. So if we're able to get points into the last race, that should solidify us in P7. But I don't think we'll be getting P6 anymore. But yeah, I mean, the constructor is important because that is what chooses how much money we get at the end of the season, at the end of the day. So the higher we are, the more money we'll get, which means the more upgrades we can make and hopefully bring our team to a bit more of a midfield team. But we'll have to see at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix where we end up. But other than that, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fantastic action. And that's it from me. Good night.